After a pretty insane first month of the college football season, Week 5 delivered arguably the craziest. There were a number of unexpected upsets and finishes, as 9 ranked teams lost this weekend. This poll has more movement than any previous poll from this year. After the 5th week of the college football season, here's my personal top 25 ballot. Before we get to today's video, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are that you love college football, and odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel, so make sure to subscribe to one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. I'll be posting college football videos every day during the season, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, make sure to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. Reclaiming their spot at number 1 is Alabama, who defeated Arkansas by 23 points. This was a really weird game as it was back and forth and honestly looked like it was anyone's game in the second half. Alabama took a 28-0 lead, but Arkansas scored 23 unanswered points to cut it to a 5-point game in the third quarter. But Alabama then ran away as they outscored Arkansas by 18 points, ultimately beating them by 23. We're gonna have to monitor Bryce Young as he left the game with an injury. The last I heard is that he's day-to-day and he shouldn't miss much time, but we'll have to wait and see. Another week, another dominating Ohio State victory as they defeated Rutgers 49-10. CJ Stroud only threw for 150 yards with 2 touchdowns, but the Buckeyes still had plenty of offense. Mayan Williams had an insane game on the ground as he rushed for 190 yards with 5 rushing touchdowns. Yet again, Ohio State shows why they're arguably the best offense in all of college football. We almost had the upset of the season as Georgia escaped with a 4-point victory on the road at Missouri. This was a game that Missouri was essentially dominating the entire way. They led after the first quarter, the second quarter, and the third quarter. Ultimately though, Georgia came back late and they won the game. Now Georgia is still one of the 2 to 3 best teams in all of college football, but the fact that they struggled against a Missouri team they were favored by 28 points against and honestly could have lost to is a bit concerning. With that being said, they still won the game, but maybe this Georgia team isn't just as dominant as we originally thought. Clemson continues to impress as they defeated number 10 NC State 30-20. This game was pretty close for the most part, but Clemson always seemed to have the upper hand and just always seemed to pull away when needed. DJ Uiagalelei threw for 200 yards with a passing touchdown, but he led Clemson on the ground with 70 rushing yards and 2 rushing scores. Uiagalelei is finally playing like the quarterback everyone expected him to be, and Clemson is playing like the team we all expected last season. A lot of people had Michigan on upset watch as they traveled to Iowa, but they took care of business, defeating the Hawkeyes by 2 scores. Honestly, it should have been 3 scores had it not been for a last-second touchdown by Iowa. JJ McCarthy completed 18 of 24 passes for 150 yards with a touchdown. Blake Corum added 130 yards on the ground with a rushing score as well. Quietly, Michigan just keeps winning, and they're proving that once again, they're going to be a threat for the college football playoff. After playing essentially nobody through the first 3 games, Oklahoma State took down Baylor in a very impressive road victory. Spencer Sanders threw for 180 yards with a passing touchdown and led the Cowboys with 75 yards on the ground with a rushing score. The way things are currently shaping out in the Big 12, it looks like Oklahoma State is the team to beat, and they look like the conference's best shot of a team reaching the college football playoff. Ole Miss is now 5-0 on the season as they took down a really good Kentucky team, beating them by 3 points. This was a back and forth game that honestly could have gone either way, but the Rebels still managed to pull out the impressive victory. The SEC is going to be extremely difficult this year as Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama all look really good, but maybe this is finally Ole Miss's year to make a serious run in the conference. USC took down Arizona State by 17 points, which is a pretty comfortable victory, but this game was anything but comfortable for the Trojans. They were going toe-to-toe with Arizona State all game, and it honestly looked like the Sun Devils potentially had an upset in them. But USC was able to hold off and escape with the 17-point victory. Caleb Williams threw for 350 yards with 3 passing touchdowns while rushing for 50 yards with a rushing score. I know USC is now 5-0 on the season, but they still haven't really been all that impressive up until this point. They had a close victory last week against Oregon State, a game in which they could have lost, and Arizona State, who personally I think is one of the worst teams in all of Power 5, they played them very close. Tennessee didn't play this week, so this is where we have them. Utah just continues to show they're one of the best teams in the Pac-12 as they took care of Oregon State with ease, beating them 42-16. Cameron Rising threw for 200 yards with 3 passing touchdowns while leading the Utes with 70 yards on the ground with a rushing score. Had it not been for that interception from Cam Rising in week 1 against Florida, this would be a Utah team that would be knocking on the door of being a top 4 team. I still think they're one of the better teams in all of college football. Another Pac-12 team that has bounced back nicely after a week 1 loss is Oregon, as they defeated Stanford by 18 points. The Ducks have now won 4 straight games since losing to Georgia in week 1. Bo Nix had another really good game for Oregon as he threw for 160 yards with 2 passing touchdowns while rushing for 140 yards with 2 scores. Not only has Oregon won 4 straight games, they've looked pretty damn good in all of these matchups. They're dominating whoever they're playing, and they look like they're a legitimate threat in the Pac-12. Penn State moved to 5-0 on the season, but they had a very underwhelming showing against Northwestern. They defeated the Wildcats by only 10 points, but this was a 1-score game entering the 4th quarter. Northwestern is arguably the worst team in the entire Big Ten, so the fact that Penn State really struggled to put them away, I'm a little concerned with that. But the Nittany Lions are still 5-0, and they're making a run in the Big Ten. After a tough loss last week against Clemson, Wake Forest bounced back nicely, taking down number 23 Florida State by 10 points. After falling behind a touchdown very early in this game, Wake Forest responded by outscoring Florida State 31-14. What impressed me the most was the fact that Wake Forest was able to hold Florida State to only 2 scores over the last 55 minutes of this game. We know their offense is one of the better ones in the entire conference, but their defense really stepped up in this matchup. Not only did TCU pick up the victory against number 18 Oklahoma, they dominated from start to finish. Just after the first quarter, they outscored the Sooners 27-10. They had 55 points through the first 3 quarters, but that was all they needed. Max Duggan threw for 300 yards with 3 passing touchdowns while rushing for over 100 yards with 2 rushing scores. TCU is now 4-0 on the season, and all of a sudden, they're right in the hunt for the Big 12. It's one thing to pull off the upset against a ranked opponent, but it's another to completely dismantle them and beat them by 31 points. This game was on Friday, but BYU took care of Utah State. Jaron Hall had another fantastic game as he threw for 275 yards with 3 passing touchdowns. BYU is 4-1 on the season as they've won 2 in a row since their tough loss at Oregon a few weeks back. Their schedule gets really difficult though now as they play the next 2 games against Notre Dame and Arkansas. I've had Kansas ranked for a couple of weeks now, but this is really starting to get ridiculous. The Jayhawks took down Iowa State and moved to 5-0 on the season. Jalen Daniels, who I've had in my Heisman discussion, didn't really have the best game as he finished with only 7 completions for 100 yards, but he did add a rushing score on the game, one of only 2 touchdowns for Kansas. Still, Kansas pulled out the victory against a really good Iowa State team and are now one of a handful of teams that are 5-0 on the season. I don't know what the hell is going on with the Jayhawks. They're 1 win away from being bowl eligible, and they're hosting College Game Day this week. After upsetting Oklahoma last week, Kansas State responded with a 9-point victory over a really good Texas Tech team. For the second straight week, Adrian Martinez had a fantastic game. He threw for 115 yards with a passing touchdown, but added 170 yards on the ground with 3 rushing touchdowns. Don't look now, but Kansas State is a legitimate threat in the Big 12, and Adrian Martinez finds himself in the Heisman discussion. I feel like UCLA is the most random team on this list, even though they're 5-0 on the season. They took down number 15 Washington in a game in which they pretty much dominated the entire way. The Bruins are 5-0 on the season and 2-0 in Pac-12 play, but yet it feels like we're not talking about them at all. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is a name we certainly should be talking about as he was excellent for the Bruins in this win. He threw for 315 yards with 3 passing touchdowns while adding 50 yards on the ground with a rushing score. Just like that, UCLA is one of only 2 teams in the entire Pac-12 that is 5-0. And they're just one of a handful of teams in the entire country that's 5-0 as well. If you watch this game, you'd know that Kentucky should have come out with a victory. They had a number of blown opportunities that pretty much lasted from the first through the 4th quarter. There were missed field goals, missed PATs, and 2 crucial turnovers in the 4th quarter. All of that, and they still somehow lost by only 3 points. I get that it was a close loss, and they really shot themselves in the foot, but the number of errors they had shouldn't have happened, so that's why I'm really making them fall on this list. list. NC State was able to hang around all game, but they just couldn't overcome the Tigers to take down Clemson. Devin Leary had just an okay day as he threw for 250 yards with a touchdown with an interception. The rushing game was non-existent as the Wolfpack rushed for only 34 yards, averaging just 1.6 yards a carry. Overall, I thought the Wolfpack looked impressive as, like I mentioned, they were keeping it close with Clemson, but they just couldn't seem to pull out the big play when needed as Clemson just was the better team. Mississippi State took down Texas A&M with ease as they beat them by 18 points. Will Rogers threw for 330 yards with 3 passing touchdowns as he just threw all over this Aggies defense. We talk about a lot of really good teams in the SEC, but Mississippi State is quietly having a really good season. They're 4-1 and they've picked up some really solid victories so far this year. Had it not been for a second half collapse against LSU, this could have been a 5-0 team. If you want an unlikely 5-0 team, how about Syracuse? Now, they defeated Wagner by 59 points, but the fact that they're 5-0 on the season, I think it's finally time to rank them inside the top 25. Sean Tucker is one of the best running backs in all of college football, and he rushed for 230 yards with 3 touchdowns in this game. Again, not that impressive of a victory, but Syracuse now is one of only 2 teams that is undefeated in the ACC. Jumping into my top 25 is LSU, who took down Auburn 21-17. Had it not been for a week 1 collapse against Florida State, this would be an LSU team that is 5-0 on the season. This wasn't a great game for the LSU offense, as they barely had 250 yards of total offense, but their defense stepped up when needed as they pulled out the tough road victory at Auburn. The Huskies fell on the road to UCLA, but they only lost by 1 score. After getting dominated by the Bruins all game, the Huskies made a second half comeback, especially in the 4th quarter. Michael Penix Jr. was able to make things interesting as he threw for 350 yards with 4 passing touchdowns. This was a game that the Washington defense just didn't show up for, but their offense still looks like one of the best in the entire conference. Wrapping up our top 25 is Cincinnati, who picked up a 10-point victory on the road at Tulsa. Ever since losing in week 1 to Arkansas, the Bearcats have rattled off 4 straight victories and have looked really good doing it. This Cincinnati team clearly isn't as good as they were last season, but they're starting to show that they're still one of the best group of 5 teams in all of college football. Well, there's my top 25 after week 5. Let me know in the comment section what you think about the rankings. Was there a team I had ranked too high, or a team that was ranked too low, or was there a team not even on the list that should have been on here? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comment section down below. Before you leave, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. I'm posting college football videos every day during the season, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, make sure to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.